they're a spot ahead.
Yeah, and if you look at their strength of record,
I don't know why I'm so nervous, guys. We know what they're going to say here.
Kentucky comes to mind. Mississippi State comes
but
to
here
mind.
I
They didn't
am,
look good in the first half
watching the
lost to
CFP rankings.
Steve Sarkisian makes a compelling argument. On
Hoping,
their best day, yes, they
praying
can play with anybody.
for
A&M,
something.
Vandy, Oklahoma. But on their worst day, they can also play down to the level of competition. I think the committee appropriately places them
Miami at number 12 last week. Here comes number 12 this week.
Longhorns.
It's Miami again.
Hurricanes. Now,
no movement.
If there would be course correction that Miami would get a little closer to Notre Dame. That hasn't happened.
You know, sometimes I wish I didn't care so much about college football, but I do. I love the Canes, and I'm so invested every single season. And I had no hope going into this. I'll be 100% real with you. I had accepted our fate at number 12 last week. Then we had no movement this week. There was movement in the latest CFP rankings, but Miami sitting stagnant at number 12. But I want to talk about a couple of scenarios here, and let's just kind of go through it here in the moment. Just keep in mind this is an instant live reaction, so there might be some things that I missed. That's what the comment section is before. Let me know if I'm crazy. I don't really, honestly, if you want me to be real with you, know how to feel right at this moment. Because Alabama, this is what I'm focusing on here, Alabama and Notre Dame flipped. So this puts Alabama here ahead. And in a lot of ways, this feels like them maybe trying to protect Alabama. Is this a situation where they can lose to Georgia and then that just ends up bumping Alabama to like 10 because they already talk about they don't want to severely punish a team that loses in the conference championship game just because they played an extra game? Then you have Texas A&M here who falls 4 spots after their loss. Ole Miss ends up moving up one. They lost Lane Kiffin, which I know that wasn't the team losing or anything, but they lost their head coach. They bump up a spot. You've got North Texas and James Madison here in the top 25. This is what's instantly coming to my mind here. BYU and Texas Tech are going to be playing. It's going to be a bloodbath. Let's be real. Texas Tech handled business against BYU once already. They're going to do it again. Obviously, that's not a guarantee. That's just initial thoughts. A lot of people are saying, okay, and I'm just going to lay these out here and then let's talk about it. What if BYU loses and Miami jumps them? Because you're telling me then they just leave them at 11 if they lose twice to Texas Tech. What if Miami then jumps BYU and that puts Notre Dame and Miami side by side? Then do you flip them? They even mentioned this during the broadcast. There was a lady at the end of it. She brought up that specific scenario. And it seemed like this guy, yeah, we all know this fella right here, Mr. Joey Galloway, kind of just laughed it off and more or less said, well, that's not going to happen. And that makes me kind of question it, because if they were going to really focus on that Miami-Notre Dame head-to-head, if it truly mattered, why do they not already have Miami ahead of Notre Dame when they are this close? Now, that's me kind of leaning into the negative side of things, but we're going to explore both sides of it here. I understand they're not side by side, but they made the direct comparison last week and almost kind of talked about how even if Miami were to inch closer, if I'm not mistaken, they basically said the head-to-head would not necessarily be a major factor due to this reason, that reason, and this reason, and they kind of laid it all out. They talked about strength of schedule and the records and the head-to-head stuff, but when you compare the teams the teams that they have both played, Miami beat most of them by more. There's an argument about garbage time points and all that stuff, but that's probably, something for another video, a different day here. The other question is, what happens then if Alabama loses here to Georgia? Is this just a safety thing then to bump Bama to 10? Because only keeping them inside of it, right? Because everybody says, well, they want Bama in here. So flipping them gives them an opportunity just to bump Bama out to 10. And then what happens here with the BYU situation? Because then what if there's so many crazy scenarios that could happen here, and I really don't know how to feel. A lot of people believe that you need a BYU loss, and you maybe actually need an Alabama win to just have Miami jump BYU, and then possibly, maybe, you pray that it forces them to truly focus on that head-to-head matchup and flip Miami and Notre Dame. I don't know if that's just some sort of dream scenario. Are the hopes still alive? In my opinion, it still obviously feels slim. It feels darn near impossible to me just because, well, I have the Canes PTSD. I'm a Miami fan. I feel like you're right on the outside. It's too good to be true to have something like that happen, right? Let me know kind of what you think about that. We'll get right back to Miami, but it was interesting to see Vandy whooping up on Tennessee, and they end up staying at 14, so they remain the same there. And thank goodness somebody had some freaking common sense to not put Texas ahead of Miami. Like, I understand they still jumped. They went from 16 to 13 this week, but Steve Sarkisian was running his mouth and specifically name-dropped Miami. That pissed me off. And he was talking about the strength of the SEC and their schedule and blah, 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 and this and that. Buddy, you lost to Florida. You lost to the Florida Gators. So you have no room to talk. I don't want to hear it. Now, we can bring up here, let's look at the, let's focus on 11 to 15 here, because, again, you saw Utah drop 2 spots here. Again, Texas jumping up 3. Miami stagnant, right there still at 12. BYU still at 11. But let's look at the bracket. Now, before I continue complaining and ranting here about this, I can't take it out on Sleeper, because this is my favorite sports app. They've helped me out so much. They've blessed the channel and decided to sponsor it this season. So you guys be sure to go check them out. Link at the very top of the description there. Make sure that you plug in code word Coop. That way you can get a deposit match, 100% as a matter of fact, up to $100 on your first deposit. Because we've got some Thursday night football coming up here in the NFL, and you could test your sports knowledge and turn it into some real money. So again, shout out there to Sleeper. I appreciate y'all. That's probably how I'll be getting my updates to the ACC Championship game, because I don't know if I can stomach watching it. So thank you for that, Sleeper. Let's get back to it. And this hurts. It really does. Because there's a scenario there. We know what the ACC Championship game is now. It's Duke and Virginia. Wow. I wonder who's going to win that one. And I mean, let's just be real here. Let's say that Manny Diaz and Duke does end up beating Virginia. Unless Miami finds a way in here, some sort of crazy scenario, right? Then you have potentially no ACC representation in the college football playoffs, because there's a chance here where it's 2 G5 teams. You have maybe North Texas or Tulane and James Madison, and it's just not going to be a game. It's not. Are you telling me that you think that James Madison can hang with Oregon and be over with at the end of the first quarter or maybe the second quarter? And this isn't the only thing that matters, but the TV ratings are definitely going to suffer. It doesn't matter to me, but they're definitely going to take a hit there, because people are going to be turning that game off. I feel like that they kind of need their own thing. I'm not even trying to throw shade at those teams. It's just not going to be a game. Nobody's going to be watching it after halftime. And it's just kind of unfortunate there to see potentially those teams plugged in here. But I know I want to address everything as best I can. Miami, you should have beat Louisville. You should have beat SMU. I'm at the point now, let me know if I'm wrong, where if everything else would have played out exactly how it did, it almost would have been better. I got to go full screen for this. It almost would have been better, really, for Miami to lose to Notre Dame and trade one of those ACC games out, one of those L's for a win, really the SMU game specifically. Would have been a better scenario, because then Miami is most likely in the ACC Championship game. They probably win it. They're better than Virginia. Then you find yourself in the college football playoffs, because winning the games in late August or early September, it don't mean anything. Everybody forgot about what happened then. They're focused on late November. And if teams are hitting their stride then, late in the season, winning Notre Dame really didn't help us all that much at all. But I can sit here and cry and complain about it. The reality is that's not what happened. So it just kind of pains me here to see this setup with this bracket. We knew that Miami was a placeholder. They've been saying it for weeks. We already knew that. It's still a long shot in my opinion, but not necessarily impossible, but extreme long shot, because how much movement are we going to see from idle teams? Teams that are not playing this weekend, and then how much do they end up punishing these teams that lose a conference championship game? I think the big thing with BYU is the fact that they've already played Texas Tech. Texas Tech demolished them. If they turn around and do the same again, can you really justify keeping a BYU here where they're at? But then what if BYU does work out? They end up beating Texas Tech. But then also what happens if Bama loses there? Do they protect them? Is this a situation to keep them in it here? Oh, buddy. They're going to have me reeled in again watching the selection show on Sunday, because I just don't really know what to think. I'll be 100% honest with you, because I glanced online for just a second. I know I said this is immediate reaction, which is not a lie, but I was like, let me just scroll through Twitter really quick. And the initial response is, okay, well, we're done. We stayed stagnant. We're at 12. Notre Dame is still ahead of us. That they already, have not honored the head-to-head with the team between us. But then there's the other side that says, okay, but what if we are directly side by side? Or some people said, what if Notre Dame and Miami get knocked out of this thing? Potentially. Let me know your thoughts. I mean, I guess some people are watching this to say, okay, Coop, what's going to happen? What's the plan? I don't know. I just know that the Miami fan in me says, Coop, let's be real, bro. Come on. They hadn't flipped Notre Dame and Miami yet. They were relatively close. You're telling me that you really think, Coop, that they would potentially pull the old switcheroo there in the final week just because BYU loses, and that puts Notre Dame and Miami side by side there? I don't know. Is there another potential scenario even possibly here? You tell me. Maybe some of you know more. Maybe once this has been up for like a day and more stuff has come out, because like I said, cut me a little bit of slack. This is instant reaction. The reality is the grown-up conversation here is Miami should have taken care of business. Everything was right there. If you're a one-loss team right now or an undefeated team right now, we're in it. Should have been in the ACC championship. But of course, I'm going to hope that there's some sort of scenario where Miami can get in, because I'm going to take you right back to this. Miami could absolutely make it a game they could hang. It would be competitive with every single one of these teams right here that's ahead of them. All of them. I have absolutely no doubt. I'm not saying they would win, but I'm saying that they would make it competitive. It would be a game. It would get views. It would bring in the money. It would be hype. And I firmly believe that. I do. But then, what happens if Virginia ends up beating Duke? There's so many different scenarios here that could play out. I'm just worried, just being real and transparent. I don't mind just discussing this openly. I'm concerned that with the talk that we've heard already about the Miami-Notre Dame comparison, I'm worried that even if they get close there, they're still just going to keep Notre Dame ahead. And I because personally, I do not believe that BYU can beat Texas Tech. I don't think they can. And I think it'll be another game where it's really not even close. Texas Tech is winning by 2 touchdowns minimum, maybe 3 plus or more. Just my opinion. This is tough. This is really tough, because I initially, as soon as I pressed record, I'll just go ahead and let you know my opinion here is not changing, but it was going to be doom and gloom the entire time, because I was going to say, well, it's over. And there's still a very, very strong pull to that. Well, it's over. We're 12. We're on the outside here. We're idle. We're not playing in the ACC championship game. Like I said, there's a chance there's no ACC representation at all in the college football playoffs. But there's there's this part of me deep down that's like, well, Coop, but Coop, what if? Which side should I lean more into? How about that? Let me know in the comments. Should I be more on there's still a little bit of hope, maybe something could happen here, and that there's still the chance that they could sink us in? But are they really going to make that drastic of a change after weeks and weeks and weeks? They've doubled and tripled down on this Notre Dame talk. So would they really? Not if not that he's on there, but not Joey Galloway has anything to say about it, right? Let me know your thoughts. Just instant reaction. I wasn't expecting any movement. I mean, I expected Miami to remain at 12. They beat the ranked Pitt. You beat them by more than Notre Dame did. But we've already seen the comparisons. I am thankful that they did not bump Texas up ahead, because I would have been real pissed. I'd be pitching a fit right now. If for some crazy reason a Texas team that has an extra loss and lost to Florida was ahead of Miami, I would be losing my mind right now. Guys, I don't know. You tell me. Those are just my initial thoughts here. Remember, though, guys, we're all one big happy college football family, but at the end of the day, I got to say, it's always better when you get to rep the U. Coach Coop, peace out. I'll see y'all in the next one.